Hello, my name's Jay. A week ago I posted a video just asking for questions that anybody wants to know regarding Tina and myself and our plans for this year. And here are all the answers. First off, thanks for everyone asking questions, and thanks to everyone else that left comments just in general. I think there were just as many just comments in general about my plans as there were questions that I was hoping for. So either way, it's great. And I'm enjoying a Tila tea right now. It's something kind of common in Emden in the very northwest end of Germany, but not too common here. You can't find it in the stores here. It's kind of odd, but I really like it. I think Tina turned me to it, and we actually bought some extra we're going to take with our car camping trip coming up in just a few weeks, actually. Pretty excited about that. It's been a long time since we've had some adventure, but that leads us to our first set of questions. There were two people who asked similar questions. One person was Magic Trails asked, sounds great. You've told us how you manage not to work, but doesn't Tina ever have to work? And yes, she works 6 months on, 6 months off. So she's salaried, working just half the year, but she takes in half the pay of if she worked the whole year. So she only works half. So throughout the entire year, she gets paid, regularly, but it's half of what she would have made if she just worked the entire year. And it's enough for her to get away. She doesn't have a house. She doesn't have an apartment. Nothing super set. We're both pretty minimalistic with how much stuff we have. Just bare essentials. She has some things at one of her friend's house and very few things altogether. So she does that, and she travels for the other 6 months, whether it's PCT, CDT, Croatia, pretty much all over. She's been in Greece. She went to South America for a year. She just took off of work for that one. And then this year, that's how we're going to take 6 months off this way. We're going to spend about 3 months in Canada and about probably like 3 weeks in Sweden and maybe a month and a half in Spain during the Camino. And then we're going to go to somewhere. It depends on our timing. We may go to Albania or Montenegro, which are cheaper countries. So if you want a vacation somewhere, you just want to sit and relax, rent a place and sit and relax, you go somewhere cheaper, fly there, live there for a while. And it's still cheaper than owning a house, because it's like you get the house, you have to pay for the insurance. And not only that, there's constant maintenance and projects you want to do. So it just adds up a lot. And just getting rid of all that, you just have a lot less expenditure. You can kind of get away with just half the pay for the whole year. Another person asked a similar question is Jeff S. When do you guys work? Jeff, I worked in IT. I don't work in IT anymore since 2018, maybe February 2018. And I basically sold my house, sold everything, just had an apartment until I started a PCT. And my plan was to just live like a hobo for the rest of my life. And without having an apartment or a house, like everything should have worked out budget-wise. If I just live out of my car, live like a hobo, go through hiking. Through hiking is really cheap once you have the gear. But that was my plan for the rest of my life until I figure I'm going to die in my early 60s, mid 60s. So until I can get my 401k at 59 and a half, I'm just going to do whatever. I looked into going to the North American, American beet harvest, which is in Montana, North Dakota. And I suppose you can make 5,000 within a month. You have to promise a month period, but you only work like 2 weeks completely, 12-hour days for 2 weeks straight. I was going to do that at some point. It's only in October, I think, late October. And I thought I could do that, and that would help augment the money I have. And especially if I do that, I can let myself buy more camera gear or a new drone. So I think that's a good compromise on that. This year, obviously I didn't make it. Some year I'm going to do it, and then I'll try to go each year after that. Not 100% sure on that, but that's one of my plans. And, I'm trying to do everything I can just to not have to work by just making these YouTube videos. And honestly, that's my plan. I'll do anything as long as I don't get stuck in a cubicle for 50 weeks out of the year. That's life. I I can't see myself going back to. Especially knowing that I'll probably only live like another 15 years or so. And by living, I mean if I'm stuck in one spot because of health reasons, and then I can't travel much at all. At that point, that's gonna be no fun. So yeah, I'll probably live to be a little older, but not that much older. It seems that Lynette also responded to his question and asked a similar thing, thoughts about work and finances, things like that. And that's it. That's how we do it. Let's have a sip of our tea here. I like drinks really hot, so I like to use thermal cups, but sometimes they're just way too hot. Let's let this cool off here. Thomas Connors asks, vlogging it? Yes, Thomas, I will be vlogging all of it. The Canada trip will probably be like two videos a week. We're gonna do a lot of hikes and things like that, show off any cabins we rent. The Camino as well as the Kungsleden, I plan on vlogging daily again. Some people think daily videos are a lot of work, but I think it's the same amount of work because you wind up filming as much, but then you also edit as much. So if you have like one video that's 20 minutes long, and if you do 3 days, it might be like 50 minutes long, but you still have to edit it. And when I edit 4K footage, for some reason the power director on my phone I use, it crashes quite often. So I have to constantly start it and then scroll to where I was. And if I just have to scroll like 20 minutes worth, it's a lot easier than going to like 30, 40 and trying to figure out where I was. So for me, editing it, it's easier to do daily. The only additional work I find if you do daily videos, you have to make a thumbnail for each one. But that can be pretty quick as well. You just go through, find some scene you like, unless you have a pre-arranged photo that you want to use, and you just take a screenshot, put in the numbers and everything, and voila. I won't have detailed stats like that on the AT because there's no far out on the Kungsleden. So I'm using Gaia GPS, and it's gonna be, I don't know, we'll see how much I can do. I don't want to waste too much time getting all the stats in. This is more for fun. So on the Kungsleden, I am not gonna be a purist about it. We're gonna have fun with it, do what we can, and then try to stay on the route. There's like weird boating sections we have to do. I've never rowed a boat before, like with two arms like that. I've done kayak, I've done canoe and kayak, but never boat. But there's several of those we gotta do, and long ones too, so that's gonna be fun. And I'll fill you in on the details of that later, but it's gonna be a fun trail. And I really want to get up at night and take photos of the stars, and hopefully the northern lights. With the solar cycle we're on, we're peaking in the next year or two. So it should be a lot of solar storms. And because of the weakening magnetic field around Earth, minor solar storms are causing major solar, like northern lights. So I can't wait to see them. It's my first time. I've never seen them. I heard in Florida someone saw them. But yeah, I can't wait. And it's gonna be fun. And it's gonna be wide open sky for most of it. So I really want to get a lot of footage of that. And it's not super hard up and down wise. It's mostly kind of in the valley. So we're gonna go, we have a lot of water crossings, but I think it's gonna be a lot of open scenery, and we can take it casual because it's not too long. It's like 277 miles, and just walk, easy. Brandon CV asks, if you could pare down to one camera lens for Sony APS-C lens, what would you choose? I was looking around on the Arizona Trail. I used the kit lens. It was an 18-135mm, 3.5 to 5.6, 3.5 on an APS-C camera aperture. It's just not the best for like depth of field. I really liked it though because it had a pretty good zoom at 135, so I was able to catch elk and things from far away. In fact, if you don't know, APS-C, they give these numbers, it's 18 and 135. You have to add or multiply 1.5 to it. So the 18 is a 27 to about 200 equivalent lens for on a full frame camera. And on this camera, which I brought with me on the Appalachian Trail, I had a 28 to 200. So the lenses are pretty similar, except the aperture on the full frame is 2.8 to 5.6. whereas the APS-C is 3.5, which comes out to about 5.2 when you add the 1.5 times multiplier. So I don't know, APS-C, I'd say the best one. I looked around. I did like my 18 to 135, but I saw that Tamron makes I believe it was a 17 or 16 to 70. I know Sigma also makes a similar lens like that, but the 16 to 70 from Sigma is 10 ounces versus the 18 ounces of the Tamron. So that's much lighter. And a 16 to 70 equivalent is about 24 to 105, which is pretty good zoom. And it's a 2.8 aperture lens throughout. So at 2.8, 1.9, or 2.8, 1.4, 4.2, you get a 4.2 equivalent, which is not bad for an APS-C lens. So if I had to hike again, I would right now focus on reviews of the Sigma. I believe it's a 16 to 70 millimeter f2.8. That's 10.8 ounces. It's only like $600 too, which is phenomenal actually. And it's not that heavy, it's light, fits on an APS-C camera. So if I was gonna go with an APS-C camera right now, that is a lens I would just like research like crazy and wait for sales and pick that up. So hopefully that helped, and hopefully maybe I should answer this at the end. Some people might have wandered off. Camera equipment, I love discussing camera equipment and like everything about it. In fact, Sony just released a new camera, the Sony ZV-E1, and I watched so many reviews about that. I'm kind of jealous, but there's no way I'm gonna get that. Crazy, but I'm really jealous of its features. The next question, we had two people ask similar questions. We had Kevin ask, when you hike, how do you handle money? How much cash do you carry, and how many credit cards? Or do you use another option? He did the Camino in 2016 and lots of history and views. Yes, on the AT, I didn't do it on the PCT or the AZT as much, but on the AT, Venmo is great. A lot of people, especially maybe the first 400 miles, they take Venmo or PayPal, mostly Venmo. Damascus, there's people scattered throughout, but if you can use that, it's great because you don't have to use cash. And most places will take cash as well. On the PCT, I believe I carried 200 and had 200 more in my backpack, but I wound up using enough cash from like, I don't know, rides or paying someone else to split a ride or other places that only take cash, that I actually had to get cash further up the trail at least once. Fortunately, I have Bank of America and they're kind of all over. But on the AT, I carried 100 with me and then 200 in my backpack, and I never got cash again. Because there were only a few places where it was only cash, and most places took credit cards, and most places in the beginning, not most places, but a lot of places took Venmo or PayPal. So you could use electronic transfers like that or credit cards, and I didn't need any more than $300 cash. So I thought that was overall pretty easy, and I spent almost 7 months on the trail, well, although I drove around a lot and stuff too. But yeah, so that's the easiest way to do it. The other person who asked a similar question is Mike Jones. What did you use to pay for things, food, hostel, hotel, shuttles, etc. on the AT? Do you do any regular therapy to prevent problems with legs, feet? Stretching is all I do. I usually take my fingers and kind of rub the arches of my feet, but I don't have any other special equipment just because I don't want the bulk or the weight, so I can carry more camera equipment. So, but yeah, I don't do anything special. And sometimes I'll think, oh, I'll rub my feet with my trekking poles. But then as soon as I get to camp, I set up my tent and everything. And I go, I don't have any trekking poles anymore. And that's it. Then I forget about it. But stretching is all I did. Did you ever use hand warmers, throw away or reusable on the AT? That's also from Mike Jones. No, I did not use any of the disposable ones because they're heavy. And after you use them, you still have to lug them out and throw them away later. Some people think you can rip them open and throw them out. And I looked at the ingredients of it and it's iffy. They're mostly iron, but there's some plastics in there I read that are in there mixed up to keep the iron apart from each other so they could keep absorbing oxygen. Otherwise, they're all just packed together. So if you just pour it out, I mean, if you bring it out, take it back with you and throw it away. I don't like that. And the reusable ones, like I have a battery hand warmer in my car, but that's because it's easy to recharge. But on trail, I would never use that because a 10 amp hour hand warmer, you may last 8 hours and then it's useless and you're carrying around all this weight for nothing. And there's those boiling ones I read about, but I read that they only stay warm for a few hours once they are activated. And you always have to boil them. And I didn't want to just keep wasting gas boiling them. And plus, I just put on all my clothes. If I get cold, I just put on all my clothes and pretty easy. And I went through some pretty cold weather. And I had a 20-degree quilt and I was perfectly fine with the 4-foot NeoAir X-Lite. So, but everyone should, just use the gear that makes them comfortable. Because I'm sure if most people did what I did in the temperatures I went through, they wouldn't have liked it at all. Oh yeah, I did have a Thermalite reactor liner, which helped warm it up as well, but no hand warmers for me. In the very beginning, when I used to go on shorter trips, I used to put hand warmers in my shoes in the morning. So I'd wake up, put hand warmers in my shoes, and then like get breakfast ready or take a nap again. And in the morning, the shoes would be nice and warm, supple, and dry. So if you're just doing like 1 or 2 night trips, easy, I'd say do that because it's easy to just take that and throw it away somewhere. But when you're through hiking, it's 5-day leg, it's tough. So I wouldn't do it for longer than 2 night trips. Ron Rabatin asks, have you ever considered creating a video of the waterfalls of the AT? If so, I know it'd be amazing. Thanks, Ron. I have not. I don't know if I have good enough footage of all the waterfalls. I've been to a lot of them. It would be nice to see a whole bunch of the Cascades, but I didn't record all of them as well. But I don't know if I have enough waterfalls to make like maybe a short. I could whip up a short real quick, but I don't know if it'll be that good. I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll think about it, Ron. Thanks. Thomas Gale asks, laundry on trail with all different fabrics that are out there, what setting is best, or suggestions for washing clothes while on trail? Thanks. My suggestion to you is get easy to launder clothes. A lot of people are getting the alpaca stuff and they always say line dry. I don't know what would happen if you put them in the dryer, but everything I have, I just toss in the laundry machine. I usually use warm, not hot, perm press just to, it doesn't get too damaged. But before that, of course, I will pre-rinse all my socks. And if I'm particularly sweaty, I'll pre-rinse my shorts and my shirt. And I really don't wear anything else besides a short, shirt, and the socks. The gaiters I never wash because they have little hooks in them and they snag on everything. And you can just rinse those. You don't have to put them in the laundry. But the socks, shorts, shirt, pre-rinse many, many times until the water runs pseudo clean. Put them all in the washer, warm perm press, let it finish, and I put it in the dryer like perm press as well. I don't like to do too hot. And I have merino wool gear, and the fleece from Melanzana it says hang dry, but I put everything in there. My thing is if it won't survive just putting everything in the dryer many, many times, that's just not going to last on the AT. It's just so much easier. Toss it all in there, and it's so easy to forget to pull things out. You're supposed to hang dry as well. So I like to just do all that. In fact, for my base layer, I have a large base layer because it was merino wool. It's a little thicker, but I washed a medium size I had before and I dried it the same way as everything else. And it shrunk so much I couldn't use it anymore. So I got a large, washed it the same way, and then it shrank and it fit me perfectly. So I'm lazy. I like to just toss everything and not worry about it. And it just makes life easier. Also, it helps when someone's going to do your laundry for you. Like some hostels, that's the service, and you give them a bucket and they could just do whatever they do. And hopefully it won't ruin your clothes. So that's my thing. Don't take my word on it if any of your clothes gets destroyed doing this, but that's what I do. It's easy. Some names are weird. I think it's Siren, I believe. That person asked, what will your gear be like for the Kungsleden? We are starting in August, so it's basically the end of summer. Most of the snow in the lower areas will be gone. So we're not bringing micro spikes, we're not bringing ice axe. It's not gonna be super cold. We expect a lot of rain and wind. So we'll have an umbrella, pretty much the same thing I have all the time. An umbrella, pack cover. I will use my ULA Catalyst backpack. That's just one I had. I don't want to get a new one because I expect to be carrying a little bit more weight on this trail just because it's not as difficult. And I do want to carry a second lens with me for the camera. And yeah, a lot of gear when we get to Stockholm, we're going to actually store somewhere and then finish the hike, come back, pick it up, because on the Camino, we're bringing different gear with us. Like we're going to get rid of our tent and sleeping pads and things like that. So it's pretty much gonna be the same gear, except it's gonna be a ULA Catalyst because I find it's so comfortable. I love that pack on the Arizona Trail. And I use that pack for about 700 miles on the PCT and loved it. So altogether 1,500 miles and there's no wear and tear on that thing at all. So I'll use that. And another fanny pack, the Hyperlight fanny pack. And I think I've convinced Tina to use a fanny pack as well. So I'm gonna clean up my Hightail Designs fanny pack that I had on the Arizona Trail and let her use that one. But same gear for me. And she'll be using the Z-Lite R-Call that she used throughout the entire AT. Her gear had much less wear than mine. I'm guessing because I spent almost 2 months more than her on trail. It's probably it. But gear is not going to be too crazy. Someone asked a similar question to that and added on extra questions, but Want to Go 1958 asked, a detailed discussion about train travel in Europe and the various choices in terms of cost. I assume you both will use mass transit, not be driving. That's correct. Well, part of the reason we're doing these hikes in Europe is because Tina lives in Europe in the same EU Schengen countries, and it's easier for her. So she's basically booking all the trains and buses we need to get around, and her bank accounts all work fine with it. Like mine, it gave me trouble once, but I didn't really try too hard. But yeah, she's doing everything. I'm kind of cheating, but if I didn't have a girlfriend that lived in Europe, I probably wouldn't be doing those trails. I'd probably be doing other trails in the US. So, but because of her, we're doing it, more things in Europe. Because this is the first time we'll be in Europe during these summer months where, I've usually never been here. We're usually in the US traveling around. But she's always come to the US, so it's time for me to come here and do a lot of hiking. So, but we are taking a flight to Stockholm, then I believe it's a train to, there's a town just southeast of the southern terminus of the Kungsleden, and then we're going to take a bus up there. It's a little bit of traveling, but what you going to do? It's way up north in the middle of nowhere. So I don't know exactly how much it costs. I'll have to ask her. It fluctuates. For that, you have to buy the bus tickets earlier, otherwise it's going to cost more. So we have to try to plan. As soon as we know when we want to fly, we'll get the plane tickets and then we'll get the bus tickets. But yes, we're not driving. After that, we're going to fly somewhere in southwest France. I'm not sure. There's some town with a B. And then we're doing the Francais route. So we're going to go to Saint Jean Pierre, I believe. Something like that. I forgot. It's not that I don't know how to pronounce. I forgot. But we're going there. So we'll start there. So she's setting that trip up as well. But yeah, it really helps when you have a European girlfriend. And she speaks a little bit of French, a good amount of Spanish. So it helps. Magical Trails ask, are there polar bears on the Kungsleden Trail? The answer is no. No polar bears. Someone did answer her. Cecilia Hike said no polar bears, but there are brown bears. But from everything I've read, the brown bears are so infrequent that it's not much of a worry and everyone just sleeps with their food in their tent. Some people say you should just hang the food bags to protect against lemmings. And I've never seen a lemming before. I was going to Google what a lemming looks like. I'm envisioning like a, not a pika, marmot. Maybe? I don't know. I'll have to look it up and read about, see how much of a nuisance they could be as far as getting into your gear and stuff. But no concerns of bears. It's really nice hiking trails where there are no bears. Not because I'm afraid of them at all, because I would love to see more. It just, you don't have to worry about your food. You just sleep with it. Easy. MPIC3Y asks, ever considered doing the JMT since I missed Mount Whitney while I was doing the PCT? The year after the PCT, we actually got a permit to do a little loop, and we did go up Mount Whitney and then came down. But I would love to do the JMT again. That whole section, just so beautiful. And it's just like, it's amazingly unreal. The pictures you get from there, it's like right out of Hallmark movies or just, National Geographic movies. But you can go there. You just get the permit and you can walk and you can just be there. And it's just, I'd love to. So anytime that we're going to spend the summer months in the US, I might try to start applying for it. And if I win it, I would love to do the JMT again. Or I did most of it on the PCT, but I would love to do the JMT southbound. Love it, love it. Sarah Toon asks, do you like the 4Runner for what you do? Are there any other similar vehicles you considered or wish you could switch to? I do really like the 4Runner. There had been some regrets, like at the time I was buying my 4Runner, my parents were selling their minivan to get a SUV. And then part of me thinks, I wonder if I should have gotten that minivan because it would have saved me money and I would have just had more space. But I wouldn't have gone on a lot of adventures with the minivan, with a two-wheel drive, low vehicle. With my car, I've been all over the place and kind of want more exciting places to go. I'm not going to go rock crawling or anything like that with my car because it's just too heavy. And there's too much risk. If it falls, that's my home. I don't want that to get destroyed. So nothing too crazy, but I would love to go on some more off-roading trails in the Southwest. And the 4Runner for me works great. I'm 5'6", so when the front seats are just normal, I don't have to lean them forward at all. I could just lay in the back. It's a little tight, so you have to be used to that. I can't sit up in the back. On the driver's side back, I can sit there, but I have to sit with my legs kind of crossed. It's not the ideal situation for people who like to, sit in a chair and lean back. If you like that, you may have to get rid of the whole platform thing and just cut it low so you can sit up at some point. But for what I do, I think it's great. And I do need that platform to keep all this stuff in there because I don't necessarily live out of it anymore because I seem to be going to Europe every once in a while. But I do, that was my plan initially, so I do have tons of stuff in there. The thing I never want to do was go somewhere and then be like, oh, I wish I brought that with me. Now I have to buy it and then have another one and waste money doing that. So I have all these things that I may need in there. And then it's pretty full, but I really enjoy, I can't wait to go back and just live out of that thing again. Try out my new awning. There's a new awning coming and it's gonna be really nice. I can't wait. It's just so relaxing. Maybe 3 more weeks and I'll be on the road. So a couple of weeks from now, I'm gonna be flying and then it's gonna be a week to get my car and get everything set up. I never showed what I have to do to set it up after I have it in storage. So I'm gonna show everything this time and then beeline it towards northwestern Montana and just hang out until Tina's flight and I'll meet her in Calgary at some point. We don't even know what the date's going to be yet, but at some point. It's a nice car though. It's reliable. And with the tires that you can put on, I have the 5-ply tires on the car now. They're just, the rubber just much thicker. It's much more durable, so I feel more comfortable with the weight of the car and driving on rocky terrain that I'm not going to get a flat. If I do get a flat, I can just put on my spare, but it's just much more comfortable and it just less worries when you're driving around. Mischief on the trail, I assume he's back on AT now, maybe he's still in Florida. He asked, did you do any green blazing while you're on the AT thru hike or any other thru hikes? The answer is no. For those that don't know, green blazing is, I guess, partaking in marijuana because it's green. And I don't do any of that. I don't even drink. On the entire through hikes, I don't think I even had one. And maybe I had a couple sips because I may have tried Tina's beverages, but I did have some after the AT though, but that was after. But I really don't drink. It just makes me feel bad, physically bad. And I don't like to just mess up my mind at all. So I don't do any drugs. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I just drink coffee, which is also a drug, but that's what I do. Another person asks, just finished watching the Oregon section of your PCT hike. Have you ever considered going back and take more time on the PCT in Oregon? And the person also said that a lot of people shoot through Oregon because there's always, what is it, the 2-week challenge that people do to do 400 miles and just get through. A lot of people use Oregon on the PCT to make up for their average daily miles because it's so much more level. It's a lot easier than most of the stuff below and a lot of the stuff up north of there because Washington gets a lot steep as well. So a lot of people just shoot through Oregon just to take advantage of the terrain. I did my usual thing, except I did have a wedding to go to, so I went to Bend as quickly as I could because I had to catch a plane. So I was doing, I think, 26-mile days for a while just because I needed to get there and catch that plane because I still had to get there, get to a hotel and get all the shuttle and all this stuff. So I thought Oregon was beautiful. There's so many beautiful mountains out there. I still want to drive the PCT in Oregon and redo a lot of the hikes. But I think the permit system's gotten kind of weird because the Sisters is so popular now that I think they're on a permit. There was a discussion about it. But yeah, I would love to do it. In fact, Tina and I said if we ever decide to do the PCT again, we would do it southbound so we could just see it from a different angle. But we could do the whole thing and it'd be a lot of fun. So, but no solid plans for Oregon or the PCT Sobo yet. Rosalind Trujillo asks, well, she's always wondered about church services on the trail, and she would love to go to an outdoor mountain trail Sunday church. I'm not really religious, so I don't know the exact answers on this. I know, at least for several years, there was like the ATs, there was some preacher that hiked, and he would hold kind of like impromptu services. And there's a lot of churches along the trail everywhere. In fact, a lot of places you can stay are at churches because of their kindness. They allow through hikers to stay here and there. And I actually had dinner at a church, I forget what town I was at, but so chances are good you'll find one. You just have to, wherever you go, ask around and there's going to be some kind of service there. And there also might be the preacher that's hiking around as well. I don't know exactly what religion they'll be, but I think it's not too uncommon to see that on trail somewhere. Sorry, I don't know all the answers to that one, but I never really paid attention, so I couldn't tell you. Deanne Felice asks, what was the hardest part of the AZT, in my opinion, and what was your most memorable experience on it? I would say the hardest part was the mud. Like the elevation changes you could deal with, the slippery steep rock surfaces where you're sliding down the trail, you could deal with. But once it got wet, the mud would just kick onto your shoes. So even if your shoes are perfectly clean, every step you're adding a little bit more mud. So every few steps, it's like your heel gets this high in the front of your foot. So it feels like you're walking on high heels after a while. So you have to stop, rub your feet on some rocks, continue 5 steps, rub your feet on some rocks, 5 steps. It was so slow. I've never been through that kind of mud. I've been through slippery mud plenty of times, like on other trails and Washington on the PCT, lots of slippery mud. But that mud was just, and you couldn't really avoid scraping the mud off your shoes. You couldn't just keep going and just ignore it because your heels get lifted and it just gets super heavy. You wouldn't believe how heavy those feet get. And then your gait just gets changed from all that mud. So you're forced to scrape off the mud, but it just keeps happening over and over. And it just takes forever and you just walk. I got to the point that I used to hate the rocks before, like really rocky trails, but I loved all the rocks on the trail because I would just hop from rock to rock to avoid the mud and just step in the mud only if you had to. And it was just rock to rock, rock, and it was basically just hopped around. Probably for miles, I just hopped around until the mud got better. But that mud was difficult. And the most memorable, I would say, was further north. I don't know exactly what plateau or what area I was at, but I came upon a huge, like massive herd of elk just running across maybe 50 yards in front of me. They didn't know I was there. And I just saw this huge herd that just kept going and going. I've seen big herds of elk before in Yellowstone, but the big herds were usually super far away, or the small herds were close or in the cities. But this was like a truly wild herd of elk just running, and they were just not that far away. And I tried to walk after them, but they were just way too fast. But that was like, I never expected to see that on Arizona Trail. It's a truly wild experience out there. One time I woke up, I put everything away, got my tent packed up, and I was about to get my pack on. I heard coyotes howling like right next to me. So I put on my pack and I walked towards that direction like as quietly as I could, hoping to see them because it was a huge herd of coyotes and I didn't see them. I think they took off. They heard me and they took off. But man, there's so many things that are just like, it's pretty nice. It's pretty fun out there in Arizona Trail. So all the people doing it and planning on going out there, it's a wonderful trail, and you'll see things you've never seen before. All the cacti out there, all the saguaro in different stages of their lives. I love that trail. And that's it for the answers today. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll put in timelines of all the questions and the times of when I answered them. I probably should have said that in the beginning of the video, but oh well. But thanks again for watching. Yeah, I'll be here in Germany just for a couple more weeks, and then I'm off. I'll be super busy for that first week, but once I'm off, it's just like, it'd be so nice. I'm trying to reconfigure my solar a little too, just to be able to pull in more wattage, but I have to do some more odd wiring on that. But I'll show you what I'm going to be doing as well. Some people are going to tell me there's a better way to do it, and there probably is, but I don't know. It's easy for me, so I might just stick to it. Plus, once I get out there, I'm not going to fiddle with it too much. We'll see. But again, thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone out there for supporting this channel just by watching. Share if you can. And look forward to vlogging the Kungsleden and the Camino this year. I think it's going to be a ton of fun, and I'm really excited for it. And I hope you all come along with that. I know not many people know about the Kungsleden at all. I didn't know about it until maybe several months ago, but from everything I've read and the little videos, like some movies, like YouTube movies people have made, I think it's gonna be really nice, and I think I'm gonna really enjoy it. I think so. So looking forward to it. And that's our big adventure after the Canadian Rockies adventure. That's just gonna be a lot of day hikes, some short backpacking trips, but I think that'll be nice too. That's gonna be exciting too. We're gonna bring ice axes, so we're expecting some ice. But yeah, thanks again, and you all take care. You all have a good night. All right, bye. Now it's time for me to sit here and point out the videos you could be watching here. I believe that's gonna be the best suited one. I'll give you, I don't know, maybe another best suited one. I don't know.